Bringing your loved one home from federal prison, transitioning them to home confinement, is really a heavy lift. And that's why it requires expert advocacy. Now, expert advocacy means that we look for resources that are going to help us make the strongest possible case. In an earlier video, I gave you an example of how to use the PACER federal law system, and I would encourage you to find it on our YouTube channel at Prison Professors under the COVID playlist, and also from our websites at Prison Professors, White Collar Advice, or Resilient Courses. On the top tab of all of those, we take you to this COVID page, and where I have a lot of videos because I keep publishing them every day, wanting to help people who want to advocate for themselves. And in that PACER example, if you continue looking through it, you're going to find things such as this affidavit. This is an affidavit or a sworn declaration. A sworn declaration should be a part of your advocacy package. Get sworn declarations sworn under the penalty of perjury that will have a stronger weight in federal court, so that when the judge is considering the evidence, he has good data. Now, here is a sworn declaration from Juan Segovia in the case that we discussed earlier called Brandon Livas versus Rodney Myers, the warden of Oakdale, and the entire Federal Bureau of Prisons. Now, notice that this case is filed under Title 28 USC 1746. And that's something you're going to want to know about. I'll do a separate video on it, but just to be very quick on it, you could just Title 28 USC 1746, and you're going to see under the Cornell Law, which is a resource I use frequently, they tell you exactly what this is. And this means that it bears the burden of law, because if executed within the United States, I declare or certify, verify, or state under penalty of perjury under the laws of the United States of America that the foregoing is true and correct. So you want to provide declarations using Title 28, Section 1746. But this one is particularly interesting because of his role. He is a associate warden in the Bureau of Prisons, and in his affidavit or his sworn declaration, not only is he describing the horrific conditions of keeping people locked inside of this federal prison during the COVID-19 epidemic, he's also talking about CDC guidelines. And CDC guidelines provides, you can't just use part of the CDC guidelines. The truth is, all the CDC guidelines provides real guidance on what does it take to protect ourselves against this virus. People in prison cannot do that. And now it's not just your words saying it. You've got the warden, associate warden of the prison itself. That's why this declaration is so powerful. So you want to be able to cite staff concerns. You want to be able to cite what's going on in the prison. And this information here, it shows you precisely some excellent guidance. But I'm particularly happy to share with you this section on number 16, what verifies what I showed you in an earlier video, that people who file under Title USC 3582 C1A have the ability to ask a judge to modify their sentence. And here he is asserting at least 5 prisoners from this particular facility, 5 people who are being held as prisoners at FCC Oakdale, have recently filed motions under Title 18 USC 3582, and the sentencing courts have made the appropriate individualized decisions. They have granted their requested sentence reduction. Why? Because it's unconstitutional to hold somebody under cruel and unusual punishment. Okay? You've got to be able to bring this case to the appropriate authorities, and 5 people have done so, and they got the relief that they requested. Now, you don't have to necessarily get a sentence reduction. You can just ask to transition your loved one from prison to home confinement, and the Bureau of Prisons has the authority to do this under the CARES Act, as stated right here in Section 19, where the warden is testifying that the Attorney General has invoked the CARES Act, and which is the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Securities Act, which authorizes them to send people to home confinement, provided they meet certain criteria. And one of those criteria used to be that they've completed at least 50% of their sentences. However, now in this section here, 21, you will see the Associate Warden says, acting upon additional guidance from the BOP regional office on April the 9th, which is just 2 days ago. Today's April the 11th. They are expanding it to removing this 50% sentence. So if you have a loved one in prison right now, you have got to move under the appropriate law to have the sentence modified or to request that he serves the remaining time at home. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, but if you don't take the steps necessary to file these efforts, to file this motion, and to advocate on your behalf, you're playing with danger, because the people are in federal prison and it's contaminated by the coronavirus. And so you have to take these initiatives. If you don't know how to do it, at Prison Professors, we have a team that have filed hundreds of these, if not thousands of these types of motions. They can help you, but it takes about 20 hours to put this package together. And so you have to be prepared for that. So we encourage you to learn how to do it yourself. If you don't have the skill set to do it yourself, make sure you hire an expert. You could definitely hire an attorney. An attorney will probably be much more expensive. My recommendation is that you either do it yourself, or you find somebody who's got a lot of experience in the Bureau of Prisons and understands the various relief mechanisms that will help your loved one come home and get away from that toxic environment.